So hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Water Cooler Chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer, whether it's delegating, orchestrating, gatewaying, transcoding, developing, anything to do with the Livepeer network. We're here to ask questions and get answers. So we got a couple topics ahead of us. We got the Eliza integration and the LLM inference for gateways, as well as the AI SPE kind of retrospective and treasury proposal, kind of some topics around that. So I'd like to kick us off real quick, firstly, with, and like I said, I'm going to try and keep this short because it is kind of the holidays and we got things to do. So the first topic is around the Eliza integration and the LLM inference and image generation for the Eliza framework. So just to give a quick update, actually, Define, you've been working on this primarily? We've been kind of working together a little bit on it. You've been doing most of the commits and the coding. You want to give us for those that don't know, what are we trying to achieve, and kind of what roadblocks have we hit, and where are we with having image inference as well as LLM inference on the Eliza framework?
Yes, sir. So for those who do not know, Eliza is an agentic framework, a multi-purpose agentic framework, which getting a lot of traction lately, and a lot of people are using it. It has a lot of buzz, especially in the Twitter space. So it allows you to basically automate a very large arrays of traditional workflows. You can have an automated agent, you can have an agent that can create images, can interact, can go and be a Discord agent, a Discord bot, can reply in questions on Twitter, and do all kind of stuff really. And what we want to achieve is to integrate Livepeer as one of the providers for Eliza. And on Eliza, you have text providers, which provide traditional inference, and you have image providers, which provide image inference. That's the two categories. So we have successfully added the Livepeer as an image provider, and we have tested together with Titan for working, and it's working. Right now, it supports only the ByteDance model. To my knowledge, you can put any model, just it's that in the network, most orchestrators have the ByteDance model hot loaded, and we need to clean up the PR together with Titan and push it for them to approve. There is a bug that exists that stop some of the processes that the PR is pushed and open. So hopefully they will approve it and streamline the way to have live peer properly integrated. And we also want to add LivePeer as a text provider, but that is not possible currently before we have in our hands the post request that needs to be integrated. Like we don't have that, so we can add it. So that's what we have done right now, and we speaking a lot with Titan on how to actually make it for people the easiest possible to select it, select Livepeer as a provider, be really cheap, be antagonizing, be competitive uh, with the other providers. We want to do some stuff there and really provide the best experience.
Excellent overview. Thank you for that. A couple key topics I want to jump into. I just been writing them down. So, first of all, we did get the image going. Like Define said, we got the image generation working. It's awesome. I'm really excited for that. The LLM inference, I don't think we're far behind. Brad just spun up the 70 billion Llama 3 model across 4 3090s that's available on the network right now. So he's got the inference available for what people would probably enjoy. Now, but there's no documentation on how to uh, with the uh, with the with the JSON post request goes into the gateway. So Brad said he would get that done today. So I'm hoping that by the end of today we'll have the correct way to make that call, and we can then just kind of input that into Eliza. So we're waiting on Brad for that, and then we should be able to do both text generation as well as image generation into Eliza. So that's something to look forward to. The second thing is there, like Define was saying, there is a bug. We need to fix the bug in Eliza first. It's been opened and then closed and then reopened, and we're not sure how quickly that'll get done. So hopefully we're just really hoping they see the bug and either fix it themselves or accept our pull request. Once we do that, we can then clean up the repo and send it in. So there's a couple high level things I would like to talk about and get some feedback from the community, which is around should we be abstracting away choosing a model for the developer end user using the Livepeer endpoints. And the reason I ask this is because right now, if you pick a different model provider like Red Pill or OpenAI or Anthropic, you get to specify which model you want. So you can say, I want Claude Sonnet or Claude Opus. Those are kind of like the two most popular Claude models. Opus model is like 5 times more expensive than the Sonnet model. So you get to choose that based on your price point. But the reason I bring this up is because they get the custom ability to choose. However, Anthropic and OpenAI, they guarantee inference. Like you will get the inference done. Whereas with Livepeer, if you put in a model that doesn't have support on the network, it just doesn't get done. So you don't get billed, but it doesn't get done. And so because it's this open decentralized inference network, we don't make guarantees. We only allow people just to like you can look up how many people are running this model, and but that's too much work for somebody. They just really want to be able to input something and just have it work. So I'm just kind of like, should we build in a fallback that says, listen, if you don't get the inference you wanted, it'll switch to a different model automatically. There's some base model, or should we add another inference provider into as a backup? Like, how should we deal with failed inferences when it comes to the Livepeer endpoints? Because I just know running these Eliza bots, you just want them to work, and if they fail, you get really frustrated. And if they fail because of the endpoint, you'll just switch off the endpoint. Like you won't even use it. So I'm just kind of curious, like, how we should think about that when it comes to building these Eliza integrations. Does anyone have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I can give you my opinion from the core network side. So I think I shared it also in the thread that you are working on the Eliza agent. So the current behavior on the Livepeer network is suboptimal. And the reason we haven't implemented the behavior that I think would be more optimal. A better behavior, in my opinion, would be that there is a default model. It's already in the code, but it's not working. So basically, if you don't specify a model, then you will get the model that is served the most on the network. That would be an optimization. So I shared a backlog log item in the chat where there's more explanation of what such a solution should look like. But I also agree, I think, with Ben that it's also up to the app to provide a failover. So my initial thinking around this is we should provide a default model based on the models that are on the network, so that people that just want inference on a pipeline, for example, text to image, they just get the result if they don't specifically specify a model. But a part of that, if you specify a model, then you should expect the model. So you should get the result only if the model is available.
So, define the current implementation is we are specifying the default model in Eliza, correct?
No, because you can specify the model. So if you go to the env but you need to add a specific parameter in the .env, you can specify the model. And what happens is that if the model that you specify doesn't exist, it's not hot loaded or any other kind of reason, then it defaults to the ByteDance one, or you can specify the ByteDance. So that's the options. So I think it's you can say it's a decent fallback, but yes, it's not ideal.
And the same would be true for the LLM when we add the text inference, correct?
I'm not sure because, to my understanding, only one kind of text LLM will be deployed to the network. Is that correct? So only the Llama 3.1 70B, as I understand.
I can comment a little bit on that. So I have spoken with Nico as well during the last week. He is gearing up for his launch with the LLM SPE. I think the first two models that are supported there is the smaller one, the Llama 8 billion parameters, and then also they are looking, and together as Brett, as you stated, is also looking at the 70 billion models. The bigger models are really hard to serve unless you quantize them or do other optimizations. So for the beginning, I expect that will be the two models that are available. It will of course change if the LLM pipeline really becomes profitable, because of course then orchestrators will switch to these models, but then you still need the GPUs available to serve these bigger models.
Yeah, okay, got it. So we will have one or two LLM types for start. That's totally fine. I think to my understanding, people are really differentiate between image models right now, not so much between mid to high range text models, because I don't see extreme difference between 4.0, 3.1, 70B, and etc. But any kind of logic that you guys agree that want to be implemented as fallback, well, we can put it through. My recommendation would be have a standard quality model in both cases, in both image and text generation, that we know that can guarantee the minimum quality that we want to give to newcomers and recent users in general, and have an array of two or three other models that they're in the same tier or one tier better than that we provide in the documentation, but they're not hot loaded all the time. And if they're not there, they're not hot loaded, or for any other reason they cannot be accessed, in both cases it will default to the standard model.
Yeah, thank you. I wrote that down. So also for your use case, there's something really interesting, I think, because as Titan explained it to me, the inference doesn't need to be in real time right now, so there can be a longer waiting time. That means that orchestrators can serve multiple models dynamically. So if it becomes profitable, they could specify multiple models dynamically. And if you're fine with, for example, having the waiting time of 5 seconds container spin up, then the inference time, and then get your result back within 1 minute or 2 minutes. Then really the number of models that you can serve on this agent platforms really goes up. So there are things, as I stated, for that can be done in the core network stack. The easiest one is ensuring that the code that chooses the default model in the Go Livepeer stack is working. Currently, it's not. So if you don't have the model, it's a required parameter. So you will get at least I thought it was required still. You get a problem. The next step is what I explained earlier. So that's implementing, looking at the network, seeing which models are available, and then based on that, if there is no model requested, chose that model on the network. Also, there is a new pull request from Brad that we still have to merge in. It will provide the hardware requirements. It will provide the capabilities on the network. I'm looking to merge that in at least in the beginning of January, hopefully earlier. And basically what you can do then as well, you can request this data from the gateway as well, at least the gateway knows this. So I'm not 100% or sure if it's also exposed to the user, but I thought that there is a caching mechanism and it exposes to the user. So there are multiple ways to handle this. So in the core network stack, also by looking at this endpoint, and as you already did from your end, this failover.
Well, excuse me, Rick, to understand better the first thing that you mentioned because we do not have yet the requirement to provide live services, live audio service or live video services. It's possible for one orchestrator to handle multiple calls.
Yeah. So at least Titan, correct me if I'm wrong. You stated that the time to delivery is a lot can be a lot longer with your type of request.
Yeah, especially with the default usage of Eliza right now, which is you tweet every 3 hours, right? So generating a tweet every 3 hours like isn't that timely. And then every 5 minutes, it looks for like most Eliza inferences is just X posts at this point, and then every 5 minutes it checks for new replies to a post, and then it will generate a response to that. So like you can see how like this, it's not that timely. Like it's not like if there's a 5 minute delay between replying to a post, or a 5 minute delay after 3 hours to generate a new post, like it's just not, it's not real time. It has no user interface that's requiring prompt return. Like you don't have a user waiting, and that is true in the X posting. I'm not sure how true it's in the Discord posting, but it seems, again, like if you post in Discord and you're using one of those Eliza Discord bots, like, you can wait, a little bit before you get a reply, and it's not too clunky. The other integrations are, Telegram and Farcaster, and so, but at this point, it just seems that like, real time isn't the most important. It could change. That could change, absolutely. But I'm just thinking, for my use case right now and what I see other people building on, what matters is cost, ease of use, and quality. So that seems to be the most important factors, and time doesn't seem to be a huge factor.
Yeah, that makes the network I think better at able to handle it. The only thing there is you mentioned quality. Then we should really think, if we implement this default behavior in the Livepeer network, if you have no model specified, how do you ensure that you have the models quality that you want? So then it might, for your use case, maybe be better that you can check which models are on the network, but I'm not sure.
I mean,
I have an idea on that.
yeah, go ahead.
So there will be think about how it will be in the future. As Titan said, right now we do not have Eliza mostly serves cases that they're not time urgent. But in the future, there will be, let's say, at least half cases where you will have real time because of real time trading and etc. The models will be way better and way faster, but there will still be non-time urgent cases. So we can have a specification on there is a file where you can specify what your Eliza characters do, its personality and all other settings, including models, etc. So we can have a urgent, not urgent specification there, and also maintain the live peer architecture accordingly. So have orchestrators being having some orchestrator being serving immediately the urgent calls and have another architecture with less pricing, more competitive for non-urgent calls.
Right. So you're saying we could add a parameter that says, does this person care about time, urgent or non-urgent?
Exactly.
I think I heard you also say that people who are doing like trading and are time sensitive, they will care. People deploying NFT contracts and agents that are doing on-chain transactions could be a lot more important to be timely. I haven't seen
Exactly.
I haven't seen much of that on
Mhm.
Eliza yet, but it is implemented. So you are right. Like making sure people can do swaps and token drops and all timely is important. Um, the only concern I have with that is every other inference provider is kind of urgent by default. So I think we should prioritize just trying to be urgent by default. Like I think this is only coming up because um, we just don't have many GPUs on the network handling these inferences. Like if somebody wants, you know, uh, three different models, it's like, yeah, we only have one or two like GPU providers doing that right now. But like in the future, the ideal would be that we have lots of GPUs, and so we never really have to worry too much about this hot loading and switching about. So is this only a temporary issue that happens because we don't have a lot of GPUs on that side of that supply side? And is this easier fixed rather than from the Eliza side of dealing with that? Is it just easier fixed by asking orchestrators to spin up these models and serve them urgently? Things would just be more, just take that away.
Yeah, I can comment on that a little bit, Titan. So yes, it is. The limitation is really the network right now. So the number of GPUs is still low. We have implemented the AI remote worker, so the pools are integrating. I know that Nico is already really far ahead, so the pools will start. His pool, he said, will start onboarding people in January, meaning that then the pools will also supply GPUs. So the supply of GPUs will be bigger, but you're working mainly with people that have gamer GPUs, so there's also a trade-off there from they could be gaming on it, so the pools need to manage that. The second thing that's currently holding it back a little bit is that the network is not yet fully optimized to scale efficiently. So in a really optimized network, you would do this as follows, I think, in a decentralized way. You have these models that you want to serve. The orchestrators don't need to specify that this model is warm, but if there are requests coming in on the network and there is a shortage, orchestrators will keep these models warm as long as there are requests on the network. And based on that, you can have a better performance because orchestrators are loading based on demand. And that's an item that we are planning more in quarter 2. So looking at different distribution mechanisms, for example, Ray-Serve is a really good one that can load it a little more efficiently. Look at hardware requirements as well. It will handle out of memory errors, spin up the container again, scales on one machine horizontally. But we haven't implemented that yet. So it's currently a limitation of the network as it is. So it would be easier to ask orchestrators to load models right now still. If you want them really quickly, load them warm. Choose several models that you want to serve. And then if there's, of course, fees being generated, people will keep that loaded.
All right. So that being said, I think we should probably not implement like the urgent stuff, the urgent like logic into Eliza. I think we should just go with the default logic and then let the network make up for it.
Yeah, eventually the network should really work without the warm flag in the end.
Yeah.
So otherwise you're implementing something that will probably be deprecated.
Type. Oh, yeah, you can hear me. I missed it a little bit at the beginning. Were you making requests to the network and not getting a response back? And is that what the main issue is, versus the speed, or is it a combination, or is it one or the other, or?
So two parts. First is yes. So my original question was how do we handle unsupported models? Because like even the Flux Dev model, I think that what was the let's see, which model? So my website, Let's Generate AI, it defaults to the RealViz Lightning V4 Lightning, and there's nobody hosting that near me, so it just fails. And I thought, okay, how do we handle that issue? And then the answer to that would have been like, well, we can just cold load a lot more models, right? But then you have to wait for inference. So do we care about waiting for inference? This is kind of how that's how the conversation went. And so
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go.
I just wonder how much of did you checked and you don't see people running RealViz Lightning near you, because that's one of the more popular models. Last time I looked, I'm going to take a look now and just see what I see in the area. But I think some of the problem might be also that the selection algorithm, if it sends the job to someone and they fail it, there's no retry that goes to another orchestrator. At least not that I'm seeing.
Yeah, and I think that's what Rick was saying. Like, there's a lot of optimizations can be made on that side. So that's totally fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so Papa Bear is correct there. So there is a retrial, but only on certain errors. So not on all errors. So if it tries to do it and then it fails after some seconds, then currently the retrial mechanism is not yet optimized yet. If it fails immediately, it will send it to another orchestrator.
Guys,
Yeah, wow.
I just want to note that there is at least one example of delayed inference being valued, and it's been done from OpenAI. If you want to have inference calls that they will be produced in a big time span, so I think it's more than 3 or 6 hours, then you can have 70% discount, if I remember well. But it does exist and people do use it. So I do agree that right now it's not urgent. It may disrupt the network. It will create problems, but it's something that it definitely exists and it will continue to exist. So we may want to think about it and implement it in the roadmap in some kind of sense.
Yeah, so this is related to what Titan said, I think already 4 months ago, that you wanted to have, in the capabilities check, you wanted to have the option of fast and slow inference, and people could pay less for slow inference. So it hasn't been really high on our roadmap because we had to do a lot of core network stuff, but it's a backlog item that the community can take on if they feel it's really pressing.
yeah. I brought this up months ago. That was because I was trying to get what was it, like 2 gigabyte cards to host the Flux Dev model, which is a 50 gigabyte like model, and it, yeah, you can if you wait an hour, you can get that to work. So
Yeah. And one comment I think on the Flux model. So the Flux model, Brad has done optimization, so it can run on smaller cards, but that hasn't been merged in. I looked at the US capacity using the Livepeer Cloud Gateway, and Papabear can comment a little bit more on that. It looks like that model that you're requesting should be on there. It's 5 warm, 1 cold. That's also the reason that we don't have any base capacity on that model. So if you get failed requests, my question immediately is which region? I think you're in the US. And what timeout do you have on your gateway? Because I think you're using your own gateway right now.
Yeah, discovery timeout parameter is what you need to increase. With that, you should be able to reach global orchestrators.
Who, me? Yeah.
Yes, your gateway, if it's in the West Coast of North America, if you increase your discovery timeout parameter, you should be able to reach all orchestrators around the world.
Yeah, I set it to 1,000 milliseconds.
Yeah, that's what we have on our West Coast, and it reaches all orcs.
Yeah, no, I tested all this. Yeah, I'm reaching all orcs. Yeah. Like, well,
good.
like the RealViz Lightning worked right now, just as we were talking. So
I see.
the funny, I don't know, maybe it was just the time of day and nobody was online. I don't know, but anyway, just to circle back though, I just want to quickly touch back to the Eliza integration, because what the other thing was, I have this little documentation site that explains. Hold on, GitHub. Where is it? It kind of explains the endpoints we can use and like the models you can use, and so I just don't want it to be too confusing for someone who like joins it uses Livepeer for the first time. And this is kind of the beginnings of it. So yeah, that's the URL, and it's not pretty, so please bear with me. I haven't finished it. But like if you scroll down to the bottom, it says available models, and like these are all the available models on the network, right? And so how do you choose one? Like how do you choose one and make sure that there's inference for it? Because right now, if you go to OpenAI or Red Pill or whatever, they give you a longer list than this, but you're like guaranteed inference. Whereas here, you don't know you're guaranteed inference for all these, right? And so I don't want there to be this weird thing where we're offering models that like will fail, right? That'll be a bad user experience. So just kind of curious how we direct people to use models that will work for them and be happy with.
Yeah, I think the first thing I can do, if you have limited capacity, we can spin some models up. Currently, in the last months, we really try to not spin up too much base capacity to ensure that the orchestrators are serving most jobs. And that's one point. But the other point is really what I stated. So looking at the core network software or in your software, ensuring that there is a fallback that is good enough.
So, yeah, I define. Do you think it's if it comes back with inference that fails, are we going to add retry logic within Eliza, or how should we handle failed models, failed inferences on the Eliza side?
The SDKs have retries, I think.
Yes, either have it, but we do not use the SDK on this one. We can do a wrapper for the Python SDK and spin it up. We can also do custom retry, so we can, if the model is not the minimum default supported one, let's say that we specify ByteDance and Llama 3.1 70B as the two models that we always have more orchestrators being running them and thus being mostly available. Then we can have a try model to them if a call fails for, let's say, 2 or 3 times, and then just do the metrics, see how many people being left out of the equation. So when those retries, how many people do not get something delivered. Like how I think of it is UX wise, you should never leave someone without the product that they ordered, the inference that they order. So even if we have to incentivize, so extra usage, people spinning up more, let's say, expensive GPUs in the network, I think it would be a very good investment because those people will stay in the network, will continue to use the network. And many of the Eliza users, they're not very technical. So they go to the repo, they get the repo, they may even use Eliza from other through third parties. So sticking with us one time, maybe that they will stick with us through the time.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I think you really identified a really nice use case, or at least area where it can really scale quickly because we can provide cheaper GPU power, as you stated, tied in the generative AI that's on the Eliza network is extremely expensive right now. And I think asking the orchestrators to load these models if you know there's demand coming, and then if they're not enough still, then we can, from my end or group's end, also load some base capacity.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think like if we merge this into the main branch, they accept the merge, and I put out a little tutorial being like, hey, this is how you can get free inference on Livepeer for your Eliza. Just switch to our endpoint. Here's a link to all the free endpoints we have. It's like everyone, people can be like, sweet, oh, free inference. Like I'm messing around. I'd love free inference, right? And then they have to go to select a model, and they like, oh, here, let's try out Real Viz 4.0. Cool, let's try that one. And then it like comes back failed, and they're like, this sucks. I gotta go back. So I'm just trying to avoid that that feeling of like I put the effort in to use this free endpoint and then it doesn't work, right? So how do we like guarantee or at least really emphasize like that or what we do is just on my little documentation I say, hey, available models, just use ByteDance, right? There's lots for it. It's the one that we want to but then it's not displaying the capabilities of the network. And I'm just trying to figure out like the user experience of the first time they grab an endpoint, the first time they use it, what can they expect, and how are they going to feel about the experience?
I just want to do a suggestion here because as we have experienced, they're a bit slow with moving through the PRs. So we can go on the Eliza server, drop our fork, say these are the free endpoints. You can have 5-10 people being testing it, and then we will have immediate feedback regarding the UX and how people perceive it without putting it out to too many people. And I would like to ask Rick on that because I'm not very familiar with how to get the data of people that they're using a specific gateway. Like we can we can send some extra data through the post request, and that will go to the metrics and say that those people were using Eliza and did the inference call, how will we be able to particularly measure that specific demographic? Let's say that we want to spin up an alpha test for.
Yeah, I think Mike can comment better on that. So there are a lot of headers that you can use in the HTTP, and Mike was using one with the startups in the gateway already.
Sorry, what was the question?
The define asked how can they let the network know, for example, the gateway, that the request was coming from Eliza, so that they can track how many requests were coming in. I think they could best work with you guys and add like an HTTP header in a sense to get the distinction there. What do you think?
Yeah, we've done that for the Livepeer startup program when they launched that. So definitely request tracking is something we've done.
Okay, I will be very happy to talk about that, Mike, and set it up, because to answer the Titan's question about how it will look to the users, like we need data. We cannot do we cannot guess it. We need some data, even from a very small amount of users, their experiences, how it looks in data, and of course how it feels to them. And I can take the initiative on that and set up like a team from the users there and ask them directly how it feels to them to use it. I think it's really important. Outside of us guessing, we can go forward with that very small test.
Is this something we need to implement on the network side, or is this something we could implement into Eliza side just specifically for our use case quicker? Maybe it posts to some sort of database. We've asked for a copy of this inference. All inference requests get posted to some public database, and we can just read that immediately, and just immediately from the Eliza network, it's the Eliza framework itself, we can kind of like get immediate feedback, and it's kind of hacky, but hey, at least it's in the code, and we've got the Eliza needs, and then it doesn't get mixed in with the rest of the gateway inferences that, like, did this come from the Eliza framework, or did this come from Titan's personal project? And that's a lot more work. Like, maybe it's just something we add, a logging into a public database right into the GitHub, and it will just allow us to monitor all the Eliza specific stuff.
Definitely, I think you're correct on that. We can do it from their side if it has some the ability for the code to send data to some public database. I'm not sure how they will, if they approve the PR, because if I was looking on something like that, it was like this is kind of sus, right? But we can definitely spin it on our fork and give it to the people on the Eliza server to test it out. Definitely, we can do that.
Or we spin up a gateway specifically for Eliza, and every request that goes in there we know is from. That way we're not sending jobs to the cloud, or if the cloud SPE wants to host this, they can spin up an Eliza specific gateway, and we can just monitor that one gateway. And so therefore, if people want to have it free inference, they can just, we're only going to provide them one gateway, and they run with that. Is that an easier option? Because then, brings up less sus kind of like pull request logic that they're like, I don't want sending stuff to a random database.
Yeah, I will do that. I think just spin up your gateway. The dashboards from Marco are really nice to see which requests are missing.
So we'll just spin up, free node dot, livepeer dot pool.com, something like that, and we'll just host it probably in New York, and we'll just keep track of all the logs, and we'll just use one free gateway. If the cloud wants to help fund it, I don't mind putting in my 0.2 ETH just to get it going and seeing, what kind of adoption it gets. And then,
And
yeah.
You can also, Brad added, and you can also ask orchestrators to give you free inference for this test experiment. I can even provide base capacity to test it out like 1 week. But after that, of course, it's a lot better to just put it on the real network and generate fees for the orchestrator.
Because what that would also do is, because within the documentation, it's like, you can use our free endpoint, but then, there is a section that says, hey, you want to host your own decentralized inference endpoint, right? Like, here are the Livepeer docs to start your own gateway, right? And you can learn how to fund it with your own ETH, and you can do that. And if you do that, if you spin up your own gateway, I want the user experience to be the same as if you were to use the free gateway or the free endpoint, right? So I don't want to add any more new retry logic into some custom thing that the free gateway is providing, because I want to encourage people to spin up their own gateways if they're interested. Very few people will, but if they are interested, then I want them to have the same, just switch the endpoint to your own local node and go.
Yeah, and Anisha, he's also on the call. He built this gateway wizard when you can use one click to spin up a gateway on, I think, Google Cloud, AWS, and other providers.
Exactly. I want to be able to say, hey, here's a free demo. Maybe it's rate limited. I don't know. Maybe you can only use one model that's cheap. Like, it's just free inference. Get started. Go to Anisha's, like, one click deploy your own node. Use your own node in a decentralized way. You have full control of your infrastructure, right? Like, that's a really interesting angle of adoption, but also the decentralized, like the truly decentralized inference that everyone is so up in arms about, which is, you create these AI agents, and your inference is still coming from a centralized place, right? It's still coming from somebody providing the inference, and they claim to be decentralized, but in this case, you're spinning up your own node, which means you are the endpoint to the world. So, I think that's an interesting angle that we can play on.
Yeah, I think the wizard is already a really nice starting point there. It would be, of course, the dream to have this in the browser fully decentralized, but there are a lot of things that you have to do to make that possible.
Well, what would be nice is like a gateway, a TypeScript gateway that you could just import.
Yeah, I've been talking with John on this, and also and Anisha as well. And maybe we can do it in the future, but there are a lot of other things that have to be solved first, of course. It would be even easier if we could use different currencies there, like ERC20 tokens. It would be better if the deposit could be lower for people than if you have a gateway in the browser. And then again, you really have to ensure that you're not duplicating code, so that you have the same Go logic running in the browser there, or you have to really code it from scratch. But it's a really interesting product. Nobody has taken it on. I know that John worked on it in his free time, and he has some things that are working. Brad did also some work to get something like this working, so Brad can already, I think, do a request to the network. But that's basically a dream in the future. I think first we can use the gateway wizard to make it easier for people to spin up gateways. Or maybe an SPE wants to take this on. But
So yeah, that's definitely something.
It's not an easy task.
No, it's not an easy task, and I think that would be heavy use of resources without having the first iteration of like, do we have demand for this on Eliza?
Yeah.
So okay,
Yeah.
so back to
What
my.
I would
Go ahead.
No, what I would advise, so basically the behavior that we have in the core software, as I stated, is not optimal. We should optimize that. Only the priority was a little bit lower right now because the current users that are using it were using it on like the warm models that were already really readily available on the network. So we haven't had a use case where you want to support multiple models like this and have a default. So that could be one option, ensuring that we have the default correct and that there are multiple ways to do this. So first, ensuring that the default works. So you supply no model, then it just looks at the models that are available, but then you have this quality trade-off. If you then want, as the user, want to specify which models you can fall back to, that would be another option to improve it. But I think first, the easiest way is really from your Eliza side, looking at the failover and doing it there.
I think the easiest way. So the original question was, which should we abstract away choosing a model? That was the question, and I think the answer to this is no, but we should just give them a lot less options. So what I think for just the initial launch of Eliza integration is on the docs, I'm just gonna say image generation is gonna be ByteDance. Like this is it. Like you get one option, ByteDance. It's readily available on the network. We know it's not gonna fail. It works great. It's fast. It's cheap. Okay, you get ByteDance. So that's your one image model you're allowed. It defaults to that by default in Eliza, and if for some reason you want to re-add it in there, that's it's up to you. And then there'll be one text inference model, which would be either we do the 70 billion or the 8 billion llama model. We'll choose one of the two. We'll commit to it, and we'll just so basically, when people first arrive to the Livepeer plugin or provider, they're going to get a free endpoint, and the default configuration is going to be the only configuration. And we know that default configurations is likely as a high degree of working because there's lots of it on the network and we know what they're going to use. So I think that is probably the easiest way to get started.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
And then
I think if you give free inference, there will be a lot of requests. So you should ask orchestrators to load it, and otherwise we can load base capacity just to give this initial launch that you're planning really a good user experience for the user. After the alpha, of course, that you're doing.
In that case, I'm actually hesitant to use the 70 billion model because I think Brad is the only one that has it up and running, whereas I think the 8 billion model can fit onto a single 4090, 3090.
Yeah, so I'm planning to host it on two 460s Ti's. That's what I got the documentation from Nico.
So I think define. I think we should just set the default to ByteDance and the Llama 8 billion. On the documentation I'm providing, I'm just gonna provide the gateways that you can use for free, and I'm literally just giving them the 8 billion and the ByteDance models as inputs. So they don't. So even to switch to Livepeer, you the only thing you need to do to switch is change your configuration file and find an endpoint, and you don't have to worry about any other configuration. I think that's like a really good start.
Hey, Titan, quick question. Do you know what it costs today for any one of these folks to run an AI agent? I mean, is free absolutely necessary? Couldn't it just be a significant discount compared to where they are? I mean, I think you got a chicken or an egg problem here where it's like you want inference, but you need orchestrators to run it. And then if orchestrators are going to put the hardware in place, it shouldn't be free, right? Like this hardware is not cheap, and hosting it's not cheap. So I think at some point, you really need to make sure that there's a market to provide the fees. So I just didn't know if there was a way to say, hey, they're paying $50 a month right now, and we can offer it at $10 a month, and that way, at least you're still capturing some sort of revenue that, because I think the revenue for the orchestrators is ultimately going to be the way you're going to get scale, right?
Okay, so that's a good point. I do like your thought process of just providing a big discount. People will respond to that. From my perspective, so here, I really wanted to use Anthropic. I really hated the thing that I had to create an account, and then I had to go in, and then I had to enter my credit card, and then the credit card declined because the credit card processor was down. And I was like, oh my God, I just want this thing to work. Then I went to ChatGPT, and I went to ChatGPT, but you have to go to the developer portal. And then in the developer portal, you have to buy $50 of credits, so you can't do less than 50. And then you have to do a certain amount of daily consecutive calls before they up your rate limiting. And it's like, oh my God, like it's like, I just want to use the damn thing, right? So it's not so
It's
much.
not just the cost; it's the setup and the tracking and the accounts and going through all the bull
Like,
crap just to get
oh
enabled.
my God. And then I tried to use Grok, and then like X.com was down, and then I they switched their APIs, and I'm like, and then finally I went to go bill it, and it was like, you have to contact us if you want to, like, it's like, what? So, and then Giganet did a free endpoint, and they by default put the endpoint in the .env file, and it was like, oh my God, you literally just switched from use Giganet from false to true, and oh my God, it works. And you were like, oh, this is magic. Oh, it's magic. Oh my God, what is Giganet? It works. It's magic. I feel so good, right? I'm using a brand new framework. I'm busy trying to explore other areas of the framework, like the character files. I want to use all the fun features, not mess around with API endpoints, right? And everyone in the Eliza chat is like, oh, like, I'm trying to deal with these endpoints, and this is breaking, and that, and they're spending more time on that than they are like building fun things, right? So I just for like our first deployment, because the idea is eventually there's going to be many gateways that you can pick from. Like the cloud SPE could easily set up a payment processor, a payment gateway, and they can do their, they can provide their endpoint with their API key, and anyone, they can serve that, and then Titan Node can serve it for a bit, but it's rate limited, or like. But I just think for like the first day it's released, I think a free version just to take away that pain is gonna impress people. That's all.
I totally agree with Titan. And another thing is outside of the technicalities, we need to let them know that there is this free gateway that they can use. There is this free way of using images with Eliza, and we can go forward with some YouTube videos to make that happen, to let them know through the Eliza Discord. And I think it's also important to do some research on where they actually use images, because on the GitHub issues, I do not see that they mention too much that kind of utility. So, to my understanding right now, the users that do generate images are less than 10%, let's say. But if we contribute on, we understand on why they're using images, okay, and we can then move to contribute on extending the utilities for image generation, so we can enable them to generate images on Discord, for example, or on Twitter, and a ton of other user cases, and make it more more interesting for them.
Definitely. Yeah. So I'm just kind of updating these docs a little bit here. The Llama 3, 8 billion instruct. That's the thing. So it'll look like something. Did free endpoint. And the idea would be you just go to this endpoint page. Takes a bit to update. You go here, and there's only 2 models available. They work. We can support them on the network. People have a good experience, and then also it helps with our logic from DeFi's perspective. So I think we could probably ignore the urgent and slow inference to start. I think that's something we could add later. And then we don't have to worry too much about choosing different models, and kind of just here's some free inference and get started. Livepeer Cloud SP does not rate limit, but adding it would be trivial. Have a proxy in front of the gateway that could do those capabilities. Yeah, and you could even handle, like, if you want to do pay, like if you realize like you guys are getting hit with inference like crazy. Okay, great. Put up a paywall, and I'm pretty sure like people would be okay with that. But I think it's just started with just not having to deal with a paywall when you're first trying out Eliza. Like, I'm hating these paywalls. Absolutely hating them.
I'm with you, Titan. That's why we offer the free capabilities so folks to kick the tires and that they can try it out. Obviously, I think scaling this would be, where that paywall comes in. And I think that would be the next logical step for Livepeer Cloud, is to start offering paid services. But again, it's we haven't jumped on it yet because we're still, finding that demand to come in. I think that's been the problem for us, is you can build it, you can spin it up, but I think getting the demand is where, we've been hesitant to move any further. So obviously, if you wanted to put a real marketing effort behind it, then we would go for it and have scaling baked in. But we just right now, I think it's still kind of early, but this Eliza thing could be that catalyst that moves it forward.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Yeah.
Brad, are you in the audience? You want to come up real quick? Got a question for you.
Looks like you can hear me all right.
Yeah. Question for you. The I guess, is it the TypeScript prompt or like the SDKs for doing LLM inference? Is that available? Like, where could we find that? I think DeFi was looking for that.
It's not merged yet. It's going to change a little bit. Rick, we don't have any other docs right now yet, do we?
No, so the LLMs was really we added it to the docs as this SDK some months ago, but we removed it because Nico has this middleware and it has documentation, and I hope I think Nico will ship documentation with it as well, but we can ask him.
Okay, but Titan, you want to just hook into the raw endpoint, right?
Yeah.
From the gateway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I looked at the Python it looks like it's literally you just call the LLM pipeline and the input is the prompt.
Basically, so what the higher level is, it all goes through as a JSON request, kind of like text to image in the data. So it's not a form like the other pipelines are. So it's switching to be a JSON input from where it is now. But there's pretty limited fields overall. But my plan was, once I merge it, I think I'm still waiting on a couple things from Nico's side to finish it up. I can send you an example request.
Yeah, if you want to just send it an example request, I think that'd be fine for DeFi, right?
Okay.
Yep. If for an example, I can work with that.
And I'm sorry, I missed a lot of this, but what was your thinking on, like, the Llama 70B one's a pretty big model, not super easy for people to serve on the network, right?
Yeah, we're gonna so we decided on two things. Simplicity is best. So when people are going to be spinning up the first version of our provider, we're only going to give them one option just as a default. So
Got it.
give them ByteDance for image because there's lots of it and it's easy and it
Yep.
seems pretty reliable. And then for text, I think we're just going to do the 8 billion LLM model and just be like, okay, that way more people can spin it up. It becomes more reliable and just like it's free, right?
Yeah.
And that way, if we start getting fancy with trying to do 8 or 70 billion when the network can't really handle it, I think people are going to have a bad experience with it. So
I agree generally because it takes 4 24 gigabyte GPUs at minimum to run it in 8-bit.
Yeah.
So it's quite difficult.
I think we should just stick with the 8 billion if you want, and then that way I think you could spin up 4 8 billions, right?
Yeah, but I have another 3090 Ti come in that I'll put in 8 billion for you.
There you go. So I think that's the way to do it. Is just we're gonna default the 8 billion and the ByteDance and call it, and just leave that be. And when the network matures and we see demand, then we can start offering more models based on what the network or what the users want to see or whatever, right? But for our initial launch, I think it's just 8 billion ByteDance default and let's just see if people are happy with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. What is the is this the when you load up or request the model, is it this is it the model name? Put it in chat. Is it including the whole meta llama again?
I think so. So if I remember right, they changed the naming at some point. Where I think on Hugging Face it just shows Llama 3.1 now, but both work when to download it anyway. But I believe that's the one that Nico is using right now.
Yeah,
as well.
I downloaded that from Hugging Face a week ago. That's how it came. Oh,
Yep.
Okay.
So but like the 3.3 doesn't have the repeated meta in the title, or in the name of it.
Oh, okay. So this won't change. This naming won't change for this model.
I don't think so.
Don't think they would. Okay, good. So I got the documentation right. So define, when you go to add the fallback model or the default model, this is the string you'll be putting in.
It's not exactly that string, right? It's metalama / instead of the double dash.
What? Is that? See, this is
So
what I need to hear.
Is that ready? Can it be used immediately? Can it just add the request,
I think so.
add the input?
I think I could just put a post request right now through it. Hold on, let me try.
Yeah, I think you can. I think at least Nico has it running. I don't have that one running at the moment, but I can get it up.
Well,
running sometime the next day or so.
My gateway is
the AISP has it running warm, and Nico has it running cold. So I don't think he's running anything else. So I think it's essentially warm.
Oh yeah, Rick, I forgot we had those running.
Oh,
we got rid of them.
You guys have 2 of them running.
Yeah,
they had a lot running for a long time.
Nico, yeah, most are spin done.
If it works, we just need the wrapper, and it can be done tomorrow morning, DMT time, DMT +2 time. I can set up.
Yeah, one comment on that still, Titan. Like I said, we can spin up some more organizations if you need it, but first we should as the community, of course, and also we can share some Ansible script that people can use to spin this orchestrators up on TensorDoc, for example. If it becomes profitable, people will do that likely, I think.
Perfect. Right. Okay.
Okay, one question from me. So, do everyone here agrees with the ideas of creating educational content on YouTube so people can go and see that there is this free way of using the Eliza, and also trying to having our alpha being created in the Eliza the Discord and taking some users from there so we can start gathering data?
Yeah, so yeah, we'll definitely. I'll help out with the educational content for sure. I can put out a video. If any, well, multiple people could be putting out videos. It's no big deal. And then as for so gathering data, that means we'll just use one free gateway for now. Now, because the Cloud SPE, do you guys want to spin up a separate gateway just for Eliza so you can monitor how much is coming in, or what's the best way to do that? You think? Oh, but if we're only using with default models, then it shouldn't matter, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to matter.
Yeah, because if we're only using default model, then like if we're only using the ones that we know are good, then it really just comes down to traffic, and I don't think anyone's going to monitor traffic better than the Cloud SPE. So how about we do this? We set the Cloud SPE gateways as the examples that people can use for free, and then we just ask the SPE to give us an update on traffic coming in, and specifically the two models that we're recommending or defaulting to, the LLM and the ByteDance. That's the plan. Does that sound good, everyone?
Sounds good to me.
Cool. Okay. Brad, if you're here, just make sure you send over us the test or the an example post request for the LLM inference. Make sure you get that off to Define, and then Define, you can kind of finish up we already have the image generation side done. I think that's actually all done as it stands, right, Define? Like if we already have the default in there for ByteDance, documentation will just say ByteDance. I think that's already finished, correct?
Yes, it's 100% finished. We just need to clean up the repo, merge with their most recent version because they had done one update, and then do the PR for that. Send it to them.
Right. Perfect. That sounds like a plan. I think this is going to be really beneficial to. I mean, the Eliza framework's taking off. I think if we can get in there as a provider, it would be really good for Livepeer's, solidifying itself as a provider, as well as like just being able to be there in the forefront of this development. We're over halfway there. I think we just need to add the LLM inference, and we will have the fork running, and then we can ask to merge it, and then we'll create some educational content and go from there.
Definitely. I think we also just need to look a bit on the non-technical side, have a bit more presence on their server outside of the educational videos, just let them know that we exist. They can get some calls for free, and even if and this will also apply pressure to the Eliza team to merge stuff quicker, even because even if they are late to merge, we can drop our peer URLs on the Eliza server, and we will have some usage through that. We will not even need to wait for the PR approval, which is right now the biggest time collision that we have.
Definitely. Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. For those that want to just contribute to promoting Livepeer and getting in there, join the AI16Z Discord channel. It's a complete gong show most of the time, so it's quite exciting. And if people have questions around inference, we can just kind of guide them to use Livepeer if possible. Okay, cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Do we have any more topics or questions before we sign off?
I only want to comment about the new proposal, but I can be short. Just explain where people can find it. So basically, we wrote a retrospective. It's on the form. It states what we have been doing with the community. So it has all been a community effort, of course, in the last phase. Also, there is a mission and roadmap document that people can read with the whole planning for 2015 from my group. There is a visual roadmap attached to it. The treasury proposal, I'm still working on it. I'm finishing that right now, but there's a draft that you can also already look up to see what funds we are requesting, what core contributors are on the next phase, and other information there, and how much engineers we put on each topic. Basically, we're planning on posting it or the 30th, or we're planning to post it on the 2nd of January. Reason being because orchestrators are offline, it's the holidays, and we also want to give people some time off. But if there are any questions, I'm available in the Discord server. I don't know if we have the next water cooler still, Titan, but...
Yes, we do.
Oh, nice. Then we can also discuss it there. So then I will post the proposal. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. We're looking forward to the next phases, also the 2025. It's going to be an exciting year, I think. We, especially with the AI real-time also now on the network, and also trying to generalize the BETS network, and looking forward to it. And I'm very curious to hear your thoughts.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate everyone being here, making Livepeer the open and video, decentralized video network in the world, creating cool and exciting things. Appreciate you being here. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, wherever you are. Be with your families and friends. Appreciate it. We'll see you all on the 30th for another water cooler. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Happy holidays.
Nice
Bye-bye.
holidays.